I'm Eric Holtzclaw, Chief Strategist at Liger. You're listening to The Claw, which is the marketing podcast for C-suite executives. I am joined today by Ericka Saurit. She is with Saurit Creative. We have agreed that we are just going to call each other Eric and Ericka the entire time because that's going to be the simplest. She doesn't have to learn Holtzclaw, and I won't butcher Saurit anymore. So, Ericka, thanks so much for joining us.
I'm so happy to be here, Eric. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about what Saurit Creative does.
So Saurit Creative is I am a brand marketing strategist. I'm focused on helping interior designers and other creative entrepreneurs and manufacturers or makers in the home furnishings industry transform their business into brands. We do that with sort of very specific process that allows us to leverage emotion and logic to craft visual and narrative stories that speak directly to clients that they want to attract. And essentially, we do that through email marketing, social media, web design, and other strategic communications.
So yeah, there's a difference between creating a thing, right, and then turning that thing into more of a brand. You know, you could be a great craftsman in a category. My daughter is she's a ceramicist, so she does cups and mugs, but she also does sculpture and things, and so having her own signature. And she renamed herself in her junior year of college to make sure that she had like a distinct name that everybody would remember. So yes, a brand, yeah. And she didn't tell us. We went to see her. She was at a summer camp working for the summer teaching people, and everybody kept walking up. Her given name was Caitlin, and her now taken name is Eve, Y-V-E. And so people kept walking by and saying, Eve, Eve. And we're like, who are they talking to? And then we realized that was her. So she had done that such that way she could be like, you know, Madonna or something and have this one name that people knew. So
I hope eventually she turns herself into a symbol. So like the artist formerly known as.
She's an artist. That could happen, completely happen. So it would probably, she has this fascination with possums. So I'm afraid maybe her symbol would be a possum. So we'd have to figure that out.
They have very interesting tails. So there's some work that could be done there. I could see that becoming kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me, how the heck did you end up in this category of the world?
Well, speaking of ceramics, my undergraduate degree is in fine art. I studied ceramic sculpture. And what I was doing was kind of creating very large scale pieces that you interacted with, and I was really interested in how the body moved through space and how these pieces kind of stopped you or promoted you, kind of moved you forward. So I went to art school. I took a couple of design classes in art school. It wasn't really, the school I went to didn't have such a great focus. I didn't really kind of get a sense that design was something that I wanted to do. I was much more focused on being a fine artist. So I did that immediately after I graduated, and I ended up working in a landscape architecture firm to pay the bills because, the glamorous artist lifestyle I thought I was going to have never appeared.
Starting to do that.
And what I realized with landscape architecture is that, we all come from the same place. It's about ideas. It's about bringing ideas into life in space, whether that space is outside or inside. And I went back to school for interior architecture. And after graduation, I kind of focused my curriculum based on exhibition design for museums because I was interested in, galleries and exhibits. And I had always been sort of an enthusiast for graphic design without really knowing kind of what to do with that. Like I said, the whole world of design and art I couldn't put those two together for a long time. I didn't have really great counselors, and it was a long time ago. And we didn't have, computer design wasn't even a thing until my last year of grad school. And so sort of everything was very manual, which is great. I'm really glad I had that experience. But, graphic design didn't have the same feeling to me. It was all very manual. I don't know if you remember letter-set letters and creating kind of mock-ups just took hours and days. And anyway, I ended up kind of integrating all these things into exhibition design for space, right? How stories are told in the museum environment. And immediately after graduate school, I taught for a few years at the university level. I taught visual communication. I taught design fundamentals, and I worked part-time kind of on the side for exhibit design companies, doing that for businesses, for corporations. But then I got a job for my kind of dream firm, which had done the Holocaust Museum. Yeah. I don't know if you've been there, if you're familiar with the idea of what really happened was this firm put this kind of museum exhibition design sort of on the map. They changed museums from being this very kind of didactic place where you like historic, like a timeline from, what happened here to what happened here to what happened here. And they made it more immersive. They made it experiential. They put you into the story of history so that by the time you had gone through the entire exhibit, you felt changed, transformed, right? The message of what happened during, this particular, I didn't work on this Holocaust museum. I'm using it as an example for kind of what set the pace for the work that I was doing, was to really help people understand a story using space. And so I did that for about 10 years, all around the world. It was super exciting work. I worked mostly with cultural clients, but a lot of other institutional clients. And then, corporate exhibition centers for training or for kind of larger kind of brand experiences. And then what I started to do was get pulled more into the marketing side of things, because I was really good at presentations. I was really good at visual communication. I was really good at telling stories quickly. And I was also really good at summarizing what the design teams were really trying to say. Designers, as much as they are good at visual design or, spatial design, they're not terribly good at communicating those ideas to other people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I was able to, really say, okay, maybe it's better for me to serve my fellow architects and interior designers by getting their stories out, getting their stories across, and helping share the real sort of value of the designs that they've created with the marketing team, so that they can better pitch business. I could get clients on board faster. So I transitioned over a couple of years into marketing functions. I left AutoCAD and wall sections and all of those really fun parts of interior design behind, thankfully, and let other people do that. And then I went back to school, studied marketing, got a more kind of formal introduction to, how to start to leverage, the creative design, creative marketing side, and then worked in various functions with designers, architects, contractors, and then in-house for home furnishings manufacturers. So I really have kind of a full spectrum of understanding in this industry, from being a designer myself to understanding how products are made and sold, right? Either back to designers, so like as a B2B business, or to showrooms, or to buyers, or even on the retail side, as now we have e-com. So, and along the way, adopting whatever technologies were necessary for the social media as it emerged 10 or so years ago.
Yeah.
Not like
15, but no, okay, right. Yeah.
Always web design. I've been doing that for like over 20 years, just sort of following along, with how you are able to communicate, brand stories on a website in a very effective way. And then with email, also, I've been doing email for, over 15 years. And email is one of my favorite channels for designers. It's just a conversation more than any other digital channel. So anyway, that is kind of the story of how I got to where I am now. I was working just very recently. I started Saurit Creative in COVID, in the middle of the pandemic in 2020. I had been working for hospitality tech company in San Francisco. And, the world shut down, everyone stopped traveling. And, our business within just a couple of months changed dramatically. And I kind of saw the writing on the wall for what was going to happen with the very specific product team that I was with. And so Saurit Creative was born. I thought, now's a great time. I see the home industry really benefiting from people being in their homes and staying and wanting to, make it a place that became really multifunctional. It became a classroom. It became an office. It became, as you know, a place to, escape the world and the security and safety of that. And so I called up all the manufacturers and people I knew, and I said, I don't know what's going on with your business right now, but let me know how I can help. And that's how my business was born. And I'll never go back to working for someone again. I'm really very happy with the independence that being an entrepreneur brings, and being a small business owner, a small agency owner brings. It's really hard work, of course, as you know. It's a lot, but it's very rewarding work.
Nice. So just out of curiosity, so where'd you get your undergrad?
So I went to East Carolina University in North Carolina. You're in Atlanta, right?
Yeah, we're in Atlanta. So yeah, I know that, our world has its own language of schools and places and things like that. So I was just, something I didn't know as much about until my daughter was so interested in it. So she became very interested in high school. And what's funny is you talking about the exhibits, because I remember going to a museum with her, and I really was trying to, I'm trying to understand this. Like, I want to connect with you. I understand it. And we would go through like the modern art pieces, and I would say, and I wasn't being sarcastic, I was like, I don't understand it. Right. And she wouldn't answer, and trying to be like the teenager or whatever. And I'm like, no, I really want you to explain to me like the significance, like, why is this like this? And one of the things that you said, which has always been a big deal for her, she's like, it's my belief that this is not how the artist expected this to be exhibited. Like, it's on this white wall in this museum, and that is not
sterile environment. And
right. And that is not at all. And she's done a bunch of her junior year, because she graduated during COVID. So she kind of had a weird senior year, but her junior year, she did a really big project, and it was this immersive environment. And she, like you, does big sculptures, but she likes to do things around like the destruction of my nest was kind of her big, I don't know. I think we thought she had a good childhood. I don't know. But anyway, so it was like here, the Chattahoochee River in Atlanta, they redirected it several times and created lakes. And so there's abandoned houses and things. And so she built this immersive experience where you were above the water and then below the water, and you walked through it,
This sounds very cool.
Yeah. So similar to you, she likes that kind of, and that's what people I think need to know about museums, is that they're great, but maybe not how the artist thought their stuff might show up.
Right.
Right. You like take it out of that context, and maybe that's not it. Right. So that's an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah.
I love the fact you've got this multidisciplinary thing, right? And like, how then do you work with these like artist people to help them both go from thinking about the craft they do to being a brand, and what do they do first? Like, how do they think about that first? And
can I give you kind of a hook to leave on before we go to a commercial?
Yeah.
I would like to say, I like to be really provocative, like with both businesses and, solopreneurs or solo makers. I like to kind of poke them a little and say, are you a business or are you a brand? Because there's a difference, and it's a mindset shift. It's a strategy shift. And that's what we help figure out.
Okay. I like that. When we come back, we'll unpack that question.
Sounds great.
You are listening to The Claw. I'm Eric Holtzclaw, Chief Strategist at Liger. We're talking today with Ericka Saurit. She is with Saurit Creative, and we'll be back in just a minute.
The Claw podcast is brought to you by Liger. Liger is a hybrid marketing firm combining a brand strategy consultancy and a production house that offers the full range of content and creative services. We can be your entire marketing department or your entire marketing department's favorite people to work with. We save the world from boring, broken marketing by putting businesses in brand therapy so they can express their most authentic, memorable selves. And then we share their story so they can be known. For more information, visit ligerpartners.com and follow us on our social media platforms.
And we're back. You're listening to The Claw. I'm Eric Holtzclaw, Chief Strategist at Liger. I'm talking today with Ericka Saurit. She is with Saurit Creative and she's got a very cool background. It's something that I think that could apply to lots of different categories and areas. You've done lots of different and interesting things, and some of them forced. Like the pandemic made a lot of us make some choices, right? And so as we went into the break, you talked about, well, are you a business or are you a brand? I'm going to add an angle to it after you answer the question. So how do I know, like if I'm an artist or I'm somebody who creates furniture or I'm trying to how do I know if I'm just a business or a brand? Like what's the difference?
Well, first, you're a business if you're actually making money, right? You're exchanging a product or a service for a fee. You're actually, maybe you're not making money, whatever costs in your business, but you have some kind of income. A company may be the kind of other phase of that where you've just set up everything and you maybe have a website. So company, business, but brand, right? Brand is this sort of crazy thing to describe. It's a bit intangible because it's associated with feelings, like how you remember or feel about something when you think about it. So you have to, there's an encounter you get with a brand that happens with, an experience in either space. Let's say you walk into your favorite coffee shop. There's maybe a brand, there's like a smell, there's the touch of how it feels when you sit down. Is it like really quality? Is the lighting been considered? And is the coffee good, right? And what are you paying? Compared to potentially a different type of coffee shop, which is maybe the opposite. Maybe it's like brightly lit and the furniture is different, positioned in a different way. It's different colors, like the pricing on the product is different. The experience is set differently. You're going to make a choice on either one of those based on what all of this wrapped together is the brand. And so you have to begin to think about not just one part of your business, like not just how you show up maybe on social media. That's one part of your brand, not just your logo, because your logo is just a symbol of your brand. You have to control all aspects of the experience of how people will encounter your business in order to begin to develop yourself as a brand. So that's the difference. And that's what we help designers, help manufacturers really figure out or hone in on or tweak. Sometimes they've got most of it right, but sometimes there's parts and pieces that they haven't got right, which are actually sometimes more destructive. So we help, look at the full spectrum of experiences, the full, customer or client journey, and make sure that all of the touch points with their brand are consistent, are clear, are exceptional, are, unforgettable, so that altogether you created an emotion or a feeling or a thought or a memory about that brand that is positive or is within your control.
Love it. Yeah. So my hook question, which you answered, was I always tell people, if you're not making money at it, it's a hobby. So it's a hobby first. If you're paying to do it, that's a hobby. If you're getting paid to do it, it's a business. And then to elevate it, because really getting into brand also means you're building something greater than yourself. Like if I'm,
I love that.
Yeah, if I'm a business, it's a thing I like to do, I make a thing, but whatever. But to get to a brand, and you'll find many, practicing artists, they have minions who are working for them that are doing, taking their print and making it into other things, or taking their idea and turning it into something that, many people can have. So it is important. And it's also important to know like what you want, right? Like you'll run into these there's these great little stores near the beach where somebody's decided to retire for the summer or retire forever, and they do pottery. They don't want to be a brand necessarily, right? They want you to buy a tchotchke while they're there. But if you want to take it big, you got to figure out and think about that brand piece of it. So
you want people to remember and come back, even like, that guy might not be scaling the whatever business he's doing every summer just to have something to do, to talk to people, right? But if he wants the same people to come back and talk to him again, right, there has to be an experience that they're going to remember. And even that can be, the start of a brand. I like to say, brand is a long game. It's an investment in time and money, of course, just like anything in your business. It doesn't. Well, we could talk about there. I'm sure in your business that there's different arguments for what that investment looks like. But I certainly think it's something that should be made very early on, or as early as possible, so that all the other business functions, sales, operations, hiring, onboarding, any other parts of the business become so much easier because you have a guideline or a guidebook on what to tell people about yourself, both internally and, again, outwardly as you're selling your products or services.
Yeah. And that guy does own his brand. So he has these like funny signs when you come in. And one of them is if he's not there, he's just like, I trust you, just leave your money. Like he literally will leave the store open. And like, then you buy something and he's like, yeah, I'm not here. So if you buy something, like just leave the money on the counter. So there's definitely like this local whatever guy. And I like that you talk about that a brand is not a logo, because we often have companies come to us and they get so obsessed with the logo. And honestly, like logos sometimes don't stand well by themselves. It's like you look at the logo and you're like, until you've got this thing in play, you may hate it. Like, yeah. If you took many really popular logos and just put them on a white page, you'd be like, I don't know. What does that tell me, right?
What does that mean?
Like, yeah, we watched the movie about Nike and he talked about that the swoop. He had it drawn in 1971 for $35.
Wait, what movie is this?
It's the one Air. It's the one about Air Jordan, and it's called Air. So they kind of talk about the history of Nike, right? And the Phil Kite that's the CEO, I think. Yeah, I'm probably going to yell at because I probably said it wrong. But he talks about that famous swoop, right? The famous swoop.
Yeah.
He had it drawn in 1971 by a friend of his for $35.
Fantastic. I love it. Yeah. So there, it goes to show that the logo is important in that it will represent, and be the thing potentially that like gets people's attention, but, it doesn't necessarily always, and it can evolve, obviously we've seen many logos evolve over time.
Oh yeah, they should. Yeah. The brand becomes that North Star. Like, is this appropriate to what we would do or not? Like it's a way to vote in or out. I always talk about marketing and branding is about choice. It's not about everything. It's like making a choice. Like, what are we going to do? So what I find interesting is I work with business people. So, and often business people are like, this is all this hooey, blah, blah, blah. Or like, why do we?
Oh, here come the brand people again.
Yeah. They want to do a logo, blah, 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 B2B, we sell insurance, who cares? So I have like that side of the coin, which has its own challenges. You're working with people who like, this may be the thing that they're pouring their blood, sweat, and tears into. Like they've got this unique way that they want to be seen in the world. That feels just as challenging.
It really is, because interior design and the home industry, if I'm speaking about like buying sofas, buying, anything, carpet, art, rugs, like tile, anything in the home has to be represented visually, right? Whether you're selling it back to a designer as a B2B service or you're selling it from the designer's point of view to your client. There's a language that happens with images, which social media really, maybe this is probably a conversation for a whole nother time, but so many of the designers that come to me, they want to be killing it on Instagram. They want to be, getting business directly from Instagram because they have a perception that that's how other designers are doing it. When in fact, I actually have to spend a lot of time with people describing to them why, Instagram is part of a network of channels that, you need to be leveraging, but you can't put all of your eggs in one visual basket. You have to also use words. So a huge part of the work that we do is copywriting, because designers Again, we live in a world that's very visual. We're putting out big images of like gorgeous spaces and assuming that everybody understands what they see, right? You see a picture of a kitchen and you think that they understand that it's been gut renovated. There's an understanding about perhaps the cost of things or how things were laid out, when in fact, most people looking at an image of a space or an environment are really not paying attention to anything the designer would like them to be paying attention to. And without a series of very well-crafted words and statements and sentences that guide people into understanding what the value of that interior design actually was, you're missing an entire audience. And so I have to spend a lot of time with clients convincing them about how important the written communication actually is. And it's not just about what you say, it's how you say it, right? When you're building a website or you're building even a catalog or a piece of print collateral or, anything, you have to think about words. And I like the example to say, like, when we read a novel, right, we have the typography, the words are laid out in a very particular way that pushes you through the book. When you read a poem, the words are written in a very distinct way where pauses are emphasized to emphasize meaning, right? Where, line breaks happen intentionally. And copy, really well-written copy, can't just be thrown into like a block, like in a novel. Right. You have to think about how it's going to be read and phrased and perceived and simply skimmed in a lot of cases. So the visual design includes both the images of the designers, which are gorgeous spaces or products if it's a manufacturer, but then how do you lead people through an experience on a page of a catalog or a page of a website, or even in some social copy? Like, how do you tell stories to whoever is reading them that aligns with, again, that brand experience that you want to continue to be consistent about?
Yes. And what I love about your background, people come into this, coming into marketing more from, very clean, like you went to school and you learned how to do marketing, and that's great. But having that soft side, understanding, because marketing is so much that. It's so much like how a space makes you feel, about how a brand talks to you, all those things, which then can get inserted to the rest of the rigidity that has to exist for marketing, like all the, the emails that need to go out and the copy, that like those things. But that first piece requires someone who can really read and understand the brand and get people to be okay with getting people to make those tough choices. Like when I'm in a room with my clients, I'm like, we're making a choice. This is not, if you want to do all of it all at once, we don't need to do anything. It's just I want visceral response. Make me hate it or love it, but make me feel something, right? One way or the other.
How to make people feel something. Make them lean in.
Lean in. And you're either attracting the customer you want or repelling the one you don't. And either one of those is a good answer. Like we had one client, we were doing a brand thing for them, and we had this like long, it was this long component to the logo that we were going to carry through. And all the executives, we had like 10 we were showing them, and they talked about that logo over and over and over again. And like, I don't really understand, like, what's that extra space for? And why is it there? And da-da-da-da and da-da-da. And I was like, you realize of all the logos on this page, that's the one you've talked about. That's the one you've cared, like, that's the one you're paying attention to. So as much as you think it's odd, that's probably the one we should go with, right? Everyone else is going to do the same thing. They're like, why did they do that? What does that mean, right?
Yeah.
So, and then you remember it, like it's the to stand out. So
that's right.
Well, very cool. Well, I love your background's great. You've done a good job of like pulling all these things together, and I think creatives like working with you would be very they would be benefit greatly from all the things that you've kind of been through to help them take their business to a brand. So thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a really cool time talking to you. I will say, I don't know if people can see this, but you've got like the best background I have ever seen. That view is beautiful, and it's well composed.
It's real. It's actually and it's raining here in Atlanta today, but yeah, it looks. But we look out to not towards the city. We look the other direction, and so we can see like two of the major mountains here and that kind of thing. So yeah. Very nice. And so to find you, so what's the best ways to connect with you?
Yeah. I am on Instagram at Saurit Creative, Saurit Creative, and then a website by the same, sauritcreative.com. And you can explore there. I am open for free kind of discovery calls if you want to chat. I really love that. Yeah. And I have a brand audit, which is easy to download directly from the website, which will help you get all of the brand messaging on one page so you can kind of see where you might need to tighten up some of the language. And then I also offer what's called Brand Camp, which is also a really cool 2-part workshop where we help interior designers, creative business owners to, get some alignment around their brand so it's calibrated and that they're making sure that they have the right message going forward.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for spending some time with me on The Claw.
I really appreciate it. Have a great afternoon. Thank you.
So you've been listening to The Claw. I'm Eric Holtzclaw, Chief Strategist at Liger. The Claw is the marketing podcast for C-suite executives. And until next time, thank you for tuning in.